right.
I'm excited.
All right,
cool.
Guys, thank you for joining us on another episode of Always Making. We have today's guest is Ben from Flaming Homers. We've met almost we're going to be getting it up to about a year ago. And he's got a very interesting story. He's got a passion for hot sauce, but he's been a creative his entire life. Ben, let's talk about how you all got started with all this.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you guys for having me. Super excited to be here.
Yeah, no worries.
First podcast. Listened to a lot of them. Yeah, we met at a market that we were doing together, the Craft Lake City Show, just about a year ago, like you guys said. Me representing Flaming Homers Hot Sauce, a business that I started in Tel Aviv, Israel, going on just about 4 years ago. I'd say we today I came across a post that I made on Facebook in a English-speaking Facebook group in Tel Aviv. I could be very long-winded. You guys, this is what we're here for, right?
This is what we're here.
I'll try to keep it relevant. A buddy and I really liked hot sauce, a coworker and myself in Tel Aviv. And you could only find Tabasco everywhere you look. And he and I wanted to get together and make some hot sauce. We started making it. I started really running with the idea. And then what I started to say right now about the post on Facebook, I saw like when Facebook reminds you of a post or whatever. So it was just about 4 years ago. And I made a post. I had a different friend that saw that I was making hot sauce. So he started growing hot peppers, like super hot peppers. He went to Prague, I believe, and was able to purchase some seeds because we didn't have anything like that in Tel Aviv, in Israel. Super hot peppers. And he brought them back and he started growing them. So he had just gifted me a whole, 4 pounds of peppers, which for me was a ton of peppers at that point. And I made this post online. Hey, does anybody have any interest in some American-style vinegar-based hot sauce with super hot peppers? Me and my buddy have been making sauce, it's pretty good, check us out. And then that post blew up and we just ran with it. So forget what your initial question was about being a creative, but I just
no, it was about how it all got
creating hot sauce.
From, yeah.
And then I would be like, so he and I would get together every Sunday and make sauce. And give it to our coworkers and give it to our friends, and sometimes it was good and sometimes it was better and sometimes people are just being polite, And each time we were just excited about it and we would do it more and more. And he was the one with the food processor, but we would usually go to his house. Sometimes he would come to mine, and then he left the food processor at my house one time. And then I was able to now do it without him, and it didn't have to be on Sunday. And then I remember, just speaking of being a creative, all right, mango habanero, because all we could really get was habanero, or what we called Israeli hot pepper, which I guess wind up being cayenne pepper, but more of a green cayenne instead of a red cayenne. But I was always wanting to make sauce with habanero, and kind of mango habanero's been done. And at this point, pineapple really hadn't been. So I was like, all right, pineapple habanero, let me figure out a recipe. I kind of looked up some things, kind of made my own. And I just remember that one night, until 2 a.m, 3 a.m, just cooking down that sauce. And then, you always want to be safe. So you're sterilizing the bottles, which takes time, right? Boiling the glass and then filling it. And then you're just one person, right? And at this point, my operation got a little bit bigger, or hopefully you could, make enough sauce. So you're, I don't know, it takes time. So I just remember wanting to get that project done 2 a.m, 3 a.m, so I could, wake up at 7 and go to work and give them my newest creation. And so yeah, it was fun. It was super creative, and growing peppers on our rooftop. And anyway,
I have to say the pineapple habanero is probably my favorite of your sauces, followed very closely by the atomic balsamic.
Okay, yes. but
I love the pineapple habanero.
You guys like this?
So good.
This new Middle East though. We named it.
Very good.
We have our release brand new. Boom, brand new. Oh, I hope I didn't take that out of the shop, but brand new. So we call it Zahava, ancient Middle Eastern spice blend.
Yes.
We're saying passed down from generations, family Homer secret. Zahava means gilded or golden kind of in Hebrew. Yeah.
Yeah, the hot sauce for me, I'm not a spicy guy. So I've given them shots. I've definitely had them on a few things, but it's the pineapple habanero is one of the easier ones to kind of like take
Okay,
down
and it's
for
not
me.
too not too
It's
hot
not
for
too
you.
spicy for
Okay.
me. And so, but Christy's definitely the one who's like
Spice guy.
drinking the bottles and everything.
Yeah.
Nachos.
Good.
I'm like, okay,
Eggs
a
in the
couple dabs here for
morning.
me.
So pineapple habanero and then atomic balsamic.
It's my second favorite. That because that one,
good
all the
choices.
flavor like hits you with the strawberries like immediately,
It's
and
nice.
then you get the heat that comes in slowly. Oh, it's so good.
What do you like to use it with?
Yeah, I actually really like the strawberry, the atomic balsamic on anything like cream or dairy based,
what I
like
always
cream
say. Anything
cheeses
cheesy, anything
or
creamy.
yeah, exactly.
Apple pie and ice cream.
Yes, yeah.
You did mention that. I'm like, I don't know if I can do it, but
Did you try it?
I have not.
Oh, it's like
But-
literally anything creamy or cheesy.
Yeah.
I'll just find myself. So I'll buy vanilla ice cream now, which I've never done. And even like just chocolate chip cookies, just put it right on the chocolate chip cookie. Each batch, we're like really trying to get that to like nail that consistency. And the more that we get it, like that thickness, I like it in a squeeze bottle. I'll put it right on cookies or something.
This
Yeah, it's
is
delicious.
Facebook telling you now it's been 4 years you've been making this. How many bottles were in that first batch that you made?
The first batch, first get together. Hey, we're gonna meet on Sunday. Let's get together. Bitzalel Test Kitchen, right? It was on Bitzalel Street. Get together at Ezekiel's house. Shout out to my boy Ezekiel from Argentina, living in Tel Aviv. First batch ever. Did some research. Had no idea what we're doing, but like did some research, like, you know, and I like to like jump full in. So I thought I like had an idea, and he also did some research, and maybe we like had different ideas, and you can't really go wrong. And whatever we made was delicious, but it was so far from like
What you're at now?
what we're at now, or any approach we would ever take, or any ideas of how to, you know, you're like, oh, I take some peppers, I take some vinegar. You're like, I just blend it together. You've made sauce. The first batch we actually made 5 batches. And we probably got like 4 or 6 bottles out of each. And keep in mind, we were in Israel, so you've only got like a certain type of bottle.
Right.
And we were even lucky to find that. It's more of like way more narrow, but you know that kind of square bottle that you'd see at an Italian restaurant for like an oil and vinegar, but like way more narrow. So like as narrow as this,
Right.
but that kind of like
Square style.
right?
To it, yeah.
And these shitty, I could curse on here.
Oh, yeah,
It's
100%.
Like these shitty tops that actually wouldn't even seal the liquid when you turned them upside
Okay.
down. So like, if you're doing things right, you want to hot fill your product, and then you flip it upside down for a certain amount of time, and it will kill any bacteria that could potentially be in the
Yeah.
top. So I like did minimal research, but like you knew that from the very beginning. But then we try to like flip it over and hot fill, and then it's like leaking out, you know. It's how you learn, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly it.
But we made probably like 4 or 5 or 6 bottles of each of 5 different sauces, and we probably cooked each one for like 8 minutes at a time, whereas now I'm like, I have my whole process and it's a whole thing. That was kind of like a quick like blanch or a quick cook and blend it, and it was very good. But they were all very tasty, don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
And
I
like
believe
some
it.
nice combos.
And now, seeing your social media and stuff, you're selling out batches at shows pretty regularly.
I try hard. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't like to toot my own horn, but like I need to purchase glass right now, and every glass purchase that I've made since I've been a business has been like substantially larger than the previous purchase, and it's exciting to grow and to sell out. Sell out is subjective. I've learned to bring as many bottles as I
Oh, yeah.
can.
Yeah.
You don't want to.
You don't want to miss out on a sale potentially.
Yeah,
Because
you
if
don't-
that,
you don't-
that person coming to the booth might only be there that one time, and if you don't have something to give them, they might forget about it. They might not come back. They might.
Other sauce companies at a lot of these events.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll tell you why you should try mine, but like if I don't have it, it doesn't matter why you should try mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I try. I mean, we go as big as we can, and we need to be cost effective and make sense as a business, but also like I need to make more Middle East now, more Zahava, and yeah, you're like, well, maybe it's limited, maybe I'm just missing out by not having it because somebody's seeing the Instagram and then they you know,
They
they're
show
like, oh,
up.
hey,
And,
yeah.
They're like, hey, I'm here to pick up that new sauce you have.
Yeah,
You
you're
wanna
like,
try this?
sorry,
Oh,
you
oh.
snooze.
Yeah, so with that whole side of things, have you run any kind of business before the hot sauce, or is this all a whole new learning curve for you?
More or less a pretty new thing. I've pretty new as a business.
Yeah.
And also just as a little, you know, moving to a new like another country, let's say, after so many years abroad was a bit of a learning curve as well. Just learning or relearning things that you might have forgotten growing up. I mean, I left the States, you know, at like 22, let's say, so just like forgot a lot of things. or at 22 you don't even know a lot of things.
Yeah.
Or you learn them in another country and then you got to come back here and learn it at 38.
Of getting that all done and figuring that all out, and the whole business side of things. What are some of those things that like might help other people getting started that like you've learned through like getting your business started? What are some of those maybe tips and how to go about maybe missing some of those landmines that might hit you?
I'd say first of all, just go for it, right? Like you just gotta like you got an idea, you think it's worthwhile, go for it, right? I never it started as a labor of love.
Yep.
So I never was like, hey, I'm going to start a hot sauce company, right? You started as a labor of love. And then because of that, you're like, oh, actually, like, I'll get off topic for a second. I mean, it's still relevant. I would come back to the States and I would be so excited that I was like a sauce maker now. And I would give sauce to my brother, to my best friends. And these are the guys that aren't going to pull any punches. They're not going to, like, if it's not good, they're going to tell me it's not good. Or they're going to tell me it's too thick or it doesn't come out of the bottle or whatever it is. And that was always fun, giving it to them and then getting a good response, or having like literally some of my best customers are my best friends. They get the, you know, the friend price, but to know that they are legit like, oh, I love your sauce, I use it all the time. That's when you know, or you think you're doing something well, right?
Yeah.
So first of all, if you believe in yourself and if you believe in your business, go for it, right? I didn't set out to start a business, but it seemed like I had a good product, good ingredients, tasty, whatever. Do it. I don't know, man. It's all been a learning curve. You just do it. You just learn. Like I've always treated my day jobs with a little bit more like passion than I put into my, you know, like somebody's paying you to show up, so you better like give them a good, you know. And then unfortunately, maybe not all of us, but a bunch of us are guilty of it. You go home and you put like a microwave pizza in the oven because it's the end of the day and it's easy, and you're not giving your personal life or your personal self the same work ethic, at least for me, that I would give to my boss or to my job. And now this is my job, and it's my second job, but it becomes your first job, and you want it to be your only job. And then you learn as you go, man. Just everything that comes into it, learn it. Like, well, I think this will answer your question, I hope, right? This is how I talk.
No, you're good, man.
It was so interesting for me to learn, like, well, how do I, like this is a professional product that I have now, and I'm so proud of it, especially with our new labels. But you're like, okay, how do I make that, right? Like, we had these, like, bunk little square bottles, and the top doesn't even, you know. And even then, we wanted to represent in a professional manner. So we had, like saran wrap, and we would try to, like, twist it on there. And I would borrow maybe, like, my neighbor's...
heat gun or
not
temperature gun
or torch.
No, hair dryer.
Oh, blow dryer. Like,
blow dryer.
Yeah.
and I would shrink them on there, and just as a side note, I went to the States one time for vacation. I ordered like $300 of glass, which at that point was like, how am I going to use all this glass?
Yeah.
But I wanted the professional bottles. Like, I was going to bring it back to Israel. I brought back, because you were allowed for the international flight, 2 suitcases of 50 pounds or whatever. And I literally put all these bottles between my 2 suitcases, didn't have too many clothes, came back with all this glass. But what I'm trying to say, it was very exciting to learn, okay, cool, now I've got my professional bottle instead of the bootleg bottle. And, okay, now I could buy this shrink label instead of a saran wrap. And, I could actually get a heat gun instead of a blow dryer. And you learn, and you, growing up, let's say, or before you do something, you don't know what goes into it. You don't know how easy or hard or time-consuming or not something might be. And, you know, you've got cottage laws and different food regulations and stuff. So I'm not talking about that side of producing in your house. But in Israel, everything's under the table. Everything's bootleg. Yeah. So to make a professional product, and for me, just having the ethic and wanting to make something sterile and everything, and and then you produce this in your house and you give it to your coworkers, and they're like, at one point we needed a name because we were going to have a label, and then you're like, like I said, I made that one post online, and they're like, yeah, we want to get that sauce. And you're like, well, this is the orange one and this is the red one. And, you don't have a name. You don't have a label. You're like putting masking tape and, yeah. And I would love to show you photos. I'll show you guys later of like.
What we can do is you can send a couple photos our way, and I can put them up in the video portion of this side of it. So.
For sure, because what's cool is that when I did actually start this business, I had an Instagram going back for like 3 or 4 years, like 3 years prior, with these first batches, Christmas 2019 or whatever, and Valentine's Day red, fermented red. You learn, man. I think that was the question, right? Like, just what's the obstacles? Yep. You just learn. You just do it. Throw yourself into it. If you're passionate enough to think that you have the time to start a business, then you better do it right. Right is subjective. Do you want to take over the world? Do you want to take over your town? I've been looking for a really organic growth because I am one person, and it's hard to. And I have another job. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I wonder if I'm moving too slow. Sometimes I realize that I'm exactly where I need to be, because what's the hurry? As long as you're moving forward, you're not making decisions that are costing you money, and right. And also, like, you learn, you do it, you learn. Like I said, if you got the passion to think that you're gonna do this, then you better have the passion to do it.
A lot of people that are listening and watching this might have that same idea of like, oh, it's just gonna happen. It doesn't. This is me and Christy's journey. We're going on about 19 years of creating and making, and we did not know what we know today when we started.
And isn't that amazing what you know now, though?
It's so great. And I mean, to see the new labels come out and see, like a year ago, we saw a completely different version of you and this sauce. And so it is very cool to see all of our maker friends and creative people on that journey and learning and growing and building and figuring it all out, because there is no right way to go about it.
Yeah, it's going to be different for every single person.
Yeah. And it's super cool to see. And again, the reason we love talking with you the first time we met up is the passion. It comes through clearly when you discuss it.
I think I loosened up a little bit, and I'm like, give me 1 or 2 minutes, and I'm open. I'm just talking about it.
It's always a little nerve-wracking being on the first conversation on cameras with everything here going. But
even just meeting you like that first time in your booth, we were booth buddies next to each other. I mean, you could see how much you love your sauce, and that's what gets other people excited about it, and that's what's so great, is that you clearly are creating a product that you care about. So
I appreciate it. I appreciate it very much.
Whether it's art, whether it's sauce, whether it's like drawings or photography, any of that stuff, when the passion comes through, that journey will go this direction. You just have to put the time.
I agree with that. I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think that I believe in our sauces. I believe in the ingredients we're using and how we got here. And like I said, it was a labor of love, literally. Like, and then this kid who had the hot peppers, he gave them to me, and then he had so many that he started growing like clones. I guess he was really good at what he did. So he would give me these clones. So I had like 5 peppers or 5 plants, and then another like 4 plants. Sometimes I would kill them, and he would give me more. But it was just like, there was a time. We'll talk about the passion for a minute. Were you going somewhere with that, or I'll just the passion, right?
Yeah, this is how this goes.
Man, like so I never knew a thing about growing peppers, right? And then I would have these 5 plants and another 4, and then it was just fun because they were like, I had Carolina Reaper, I had these Fatale peach. It's called Fatale is like I thought it was fatal, but it's like the guy's name. Fatale peach, and then they were this gorgeous they would be like this gorgeous purple before they would fade to a peach color. Peach was the name of it, not the flavor. I had a few Reapers. I had the Fatale peach, maybe like a habanero. Oh, one called Big Jim was like a big fat jalapeno. But it was cool because like I wouldn't necessarily always do great with the plants, or some would do better than others. And and they're perennials, right? So they're like, or not even perennial, maybe like they're just constantly, like in the right environment, just constantly blooming. But there was a time when like I would go out on the roof, like I'd be making chili and I'd go out on the roof and like cut my own, Big Jim, like jalapenos or something. Or I was like fermenting. I was always fermenting in my house. I would have like in my apartment, 6 different, not specifically 6, but I'd like at any given time, maybe like 5 or 6 ferments going, like pepper ferments. Mm-hmm. And I would bring over dates or whatever, and my apartment would just stink like a fermented pepper brine. And you'd have these, buckets with like an airlock, right?
Yeah.
And it just looked like a mad scientist. So after I made that post, then people wanted sauce. I just had to keep producing, and that's how you learn. You're just like making and making and making, right? So that first batch, we made 4 bottles 5 times. Now I'm making, I got pretty consistent with 18 bottles, which was a good amount. And the bottles we had previously were probably like 3.5 ounce, and now we move into these like standard 5 ounce. So I was filling like maybe 18 5 ounce, but I was making like a batch a day or like 2 batches a day. Stinking like peppers, fingers like peppers. How long do we have?
No, you're good.
Okay.
Yeah, you're totally good.
We're just
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Making batches, learning, right, and dating them and keeping journals. So you're just like learning what works, what doesn't. Things are separating, things are exploding. We could talk about that in a minute. But yeah, it was like a mad scientist lab, and then to keep up with the demand, because so that post that I talked about got like 289 likes and like 480 comments or something. And the comments were usually people tagging their friend that was into spicy stuff.
Yeah.
Or being like, yo, I've been looking for this forever, right? And then now, if they're all tagging their friends, now I've just compiled a complete email list, right?
Yeah.
And as much as Facebook will allow you to spam people, I'm like, hey guys, your friend or lover says that you like hot sauce. Check us out, right? So keeping up with the demand, making sauce every day, and then literally people are messaging me, and I'm building up like a WhatsApp, because we use WhatsApp out there, right, for messaging. I'm building up like a Flaming Homers VIP. We're not even Flaming Homers yet. I'm building up a hot sauce VIP group. But people, my point I'm trying to make, people are coming to my house to buy the sauce, and I would just like do the deal on the street, right? I had a very unique apartment set up where like kind of just me and my neighbors had this entire building. The building was only 2 floors, but my previous neighbor built a bridge to the next building over, which was a bakery, which was also the same height as us. So we now had our downstairs, which downstairs was not a downstairs, it was you'd go through a door. Sorry, you'd from the street, you'd unlock this door. You're now in this no man's land between the building next to us and our staircase. And they're kind of like half roof overhang. But it's literally, like I said, you needed our key. We're the only ones that could get in there. But it's still this like outdoor area. But it was cool because then like from upstairs, my dog could run down there and do his thing. Mm-hmm. Technically, that outdoor area, maybe the people from the bakery could come to too. They had a key there, but they should never be in there. Maybe like to check their water sometime. You'd go up these stairs, and then it's my apartment, their apartment, and the previous neighbor built the bridge to connect to theirs, just like 5-foot bridge. So now my dog or us could just run across to this. So we had that whole rooftop. So that's where I'm growing my peppers, whatever. Yeah. Anyway, never mind that. I could do my deal downstairs on the street, or I'd be like, well, hey, check it out. Do you want to come up and see my pepper operation? I've got this fermenting, and I'm trying this, and this is our super hot. And oh, hey, check this out. This is called cowboy candy. It's a candied jalapeno thing.
Snack.
Whatever. Yeah. Put it on sandwiches.
Yeah.
So the passion was there. Like it was. Sorry, I'm just looking at him.
Yeah,
I'm just pointed this way. The passion that's where it is.
Yeah. 2 things I want to cover all in that whole span of everything you just said. Flaming Homers. Where did the name come from?
Oh yeah.
You know where it came from.
Yeah.
It came.
I do, but they don't.
For sure. You know where it came from. So So yeah, perfect timing for the question. So now we're getting bigger. We're like making it out, like, hey, like talking to my buddies in the States, talking to my best friend Andrew. Shout out to Blackstein Photography on Instagram. Amazing concert photographer. Check him out. Blackstein Photography. Andrew Blackstein Photography, maybe. I think it's just
One of those, yeah.
Blackstein Photography on Instagram. Best friend, and I'm like, it's like, this is going great. I'm doing this. It's fun. I got my sauces. I want to get labels made. I spoke to everybody in Israel. Everybody in Tel Aviv is a graphic designer. Everybody. Every girl I dated was some sort of artist. Everybody's a graphic designer. Everybody trouble is they all went to the same art school, so you might have learned from the same people. But I had a tattoo artist friend who didn't go to that school. That was totally irrelevant or off topic. He was like he had a good couple years on me, and he had spent many years living in the States, and he was just, because things in Israel are different, and the mindset could be different, and the outlook, and so you only know what you've seen, right? Especially with art, like what inspires you. It's like, well, he was cool. He's a good artist, and he was a tattoo artist, and I asked him if he would design labels for me, but like, all right, what's on the label? And we need a name, and we need like refrigerate after opening and the ingredients. We need labels. So I'm talking to Andrew, and I'm like, I'm doing this. I need a name. And he's like, what about, like, literally he must not have, there was no thought. I don't want to say there was no thought involved, as if he didn't come up with the best name ever. He literally, without even thinking twice, was like, Flaming Homers. And I was like, done. Flaming Homers. Flaming Homers, for those of you who don't know, there was an old episode, I believe, Simpsons, season 3 of The Simpsons, and
we've got a big Simpsons nerd with Ben here,
and you guys as well were pretty big Simpsons fans.
Yes, we were. Yeah.
If I remember correctly. Yeah, and it was just Homer came up with a drink called the Flaming Homer, and Mo ripped him off and stole it pretty good, and hijinks ensued.
Yep.
That's where that all came from. So,
I thought it was a great name. He said it, and I was like, done. And so Andrew gets sauce for life is what the stipulation is now. Andrew never has to pay for hot sauce.
It's a good deal.
And then second, with all of that, handling your own peppers, handling your own like fermenting and all. What is the safety concern for like?
Yeah, that was gonna be my question.
Pepper in the eye, all the oils, all the other stuff. What are some of those things that you got to deal with constantly to make sure you're safe?
Yeah. Great question. Just be smart, right? Be safe. I mean, we are talking about like literally. I mean, it's called pepper spray, right?
Yeah.
Like they make peppers. Obviously, that's super concentrated, and they probably try to get you right in the face. I'll tell you, when I'm cooking sauce, the cooking will get you. It's the cleaning the pots for some reason that really get me.
Is it like you're just like in it scrubbing?
Something about adding the water to it, and then it like, and usually too, you'll use that like the
spray,
hose, and it's just like. Psh, psh. The cooking never was terrible for me. Again, it was a labor of love, right?
Yeah.
So you better learn, right? It was fun when I started a business, because then I never once, let's say hopefully never once, paid for anything out of my pocket anymore.
Yeah.
Back then, everything was out of my own personal pocket. So you're like, well, you know what would be smart if we had like an apron and gloves, you know? I like to cook. I learned to cook when I moved to Israel, kind of out of necessity. Again, the same type of story as the hot sauce. I wanted food from the old country. I wanted food from like, I wanted like New York Italian or something, or like tacos, like things that I wouldn't find in Israel. So I started to cook them. I'm not like the best cook though, so I don't, might not have or didn't know so many things in the kitchen, right? So you learn, and Ezekiel was really good about teaching me. He was an amazing cook, amazing guy, a smart guy, so he knew everything. But you learn, my dog learned on the very first time that we made sauce at Ezekiel's house. My dog learned, ate some pepper, and never once ever ate it again.
Oh my God.
Never once. Wouldn't even come in the kitchen when we were making sauce. And then, and actually my apartment was like a long studio with another room, so he would just stay in the other room.
He's like, I'm not getting anywhere near that.
He was like, enough. Okay. Well, and he could go outside, he could go on the roof. I would keep the door, like, so safety concerns, like I would keep the doors open, I would get a cross breeze, wear gloves when I would make my super hot, because like you see things online and you're like, well, am I being dramatic or let me be safe? So I wore 3 pairs of gloves, which were fine, except the gloves only go to here, right?
Yeah.
So literally it was like burns, like physical burns.
From the pepper.
Yeah, because back then you're experimenting, so my super hot might not have been as dialed in as it is today. So if the kids grow in hot peppers and then you're like letting it ferment for 6 months and you're like, all right, what's stewing about? Like, let me cook that. You're like yeah, being careful. But not gonna lie, I've had some incidents in the eyes, some other places. Doesn't feel great, and I'd rather get it on my genitals than in my eyes, personally, 100%. But I was making sauce all the time, and I'm making it with habanero, and you're like, oh fuck, I ran out of gloves, and you're like, oh, I have a date later, and I'm not even kidding,
no.
and you're doing it every day. That it would either come through the gloves or just at some point in the process you were sloppy. But there was always like pepper guts on my hands.
Yep.
So I just got to a point where just like, don't even touch your eyes. Like the other day, somebody's like, "Did you get sauce in your eye?" And I'm like, "No, but I don't want to," because I was like going like that.
Yeah.
Like using your
It's just
t-shirt.
habit now. It's like creature habit.
Yeah.
Like,
Just because
do all these other things besides like an itch in my eye with my finger. Like,
when I'm like giving samples all like 100 times, you know. Just take precautions. I mean. Yeah, I just take precautions in any way, right? You learn about like cross-contamination and stuff too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just being smart in the kitchen, but that same cross-contamination that you're not looking for, you know, cracking an egg or chicken or something, you don't want to cross-contaminate peppers into your eye, right?
Yeah.
Onto your phone and then not realize it.
Yeah.
I mean, I had like a whole protocol like where the phone would exist right there and not move, and you'd you know, you had to be mindful.
Okay, so now what happened with the exploding bottle?
It's a great question. Not knowing what you're doing. Pineapple habanero, a lot of sugars, a lot of natural sugars in there. Mm-hmm. I guess February 5th batch, not February 4th batch. That was fine. February 5th batch. Many years ago, you learn, right? You learn. This is why you make more batches. Mm-hmm. This is why you don't market something that you have no idea what you're doing. You know. The February 5th batch exploded. That's it. And this was right. So the first post that I made, okay, full disclosure, I was Googling I was looking for something on Facebook today. That's how I came across the post. But the post was actually from like November 3rd or something. Not now, September. I'm too candid, right? By February 5th. So now I'm like 3 months in and I'm like, cranking out sauce, because if I'm only making 18 and I was selling a decent amount, like literally people would come over and want sauce and they might not just buy one. I would be like, listen, I was doing them for 50 shekels, which might be like $13-14, but also like forget about the conversion rate. Like 50 shekels was like it made sense. People were willing to pay 50 shekels for this bottle. So I forget what I was doing. I think they'd be like, let me take 3. And I'd be like, I'll tell you what, I'll do 5 for 200. So they would just give me that extra 4. I would upsell them and I would give them 5. But so people were taking, you know, not to do my own horn, people are taking like 5 bottles. I'm only making 18. You got to keep cranking it out.
Yeah.
So February, so I'm cranking them. This is also February 5th. Pandemic is like 3 weeks away, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
It hit us early in Israel. So this is a point of note as well, I quit my job, which is what inspired me to make that post. Because I told myself for many years, you're like, well, should I leave Israel? Like maybe life is easier or different somewhere else, you know? And when I got a quote unquote great job, and each time that I would not have a job, you're like, well, what am I doing now? Do I leave the country now or do I get another job? But every time, and sometimes it happens more than you'd like, you're faced with that question. Mm-hmm. So at this particular junction, I said, that's it. I'm done getting another job. I said, this sounds like a great job, whether it's 2 months or 2 years or 10 years, but like this is the last job I'm getting in Israel. I'm not getting hired again. I'm not working for Israelis again. Like figure out what you're doing. You know, you're going to be 40 soon enough. Like, what are you doing, right? So I took this job, and it was a quote-unquote great job, and then things, for whatever reason, weren't. And then I quit that job, And then I'm like, well, fuck it. Like, are you leaving the country? Are you not? Well, maybe this hot sauce is a thing, right? So I make this post, making sauce now 3 months, like, for myself. So really trying to make it work. And you only need enough. I mean, what do you need? You got to pay rent, feed your dog. What do I need, right? You know?
Yeah.
So long-winded. February 5th comes around, make a batch. Maybe I didn't cook it long enough, I guess. I mean, that's, you know, there's certain things that'll stop an active ferment. This wasn't a fermented sauce, but I guess in not knowing what I'm doing, I created a product that didn't kill the things that would come together to create the sugars and the, you know, process that would then start fermenting in the bottle.
Yep.
So I had this one kid message me, and he's like, hey, I cracked open, I just told this story like 2 days ago to somebody at the market. He's like, I cracked open a bottle, and it like, or I guess, sorry, he didn't even say this. I guess by the time he showed me a video, it had already missed like the big explosion. So now it's just like foaming over, bubbling over. So I was like, felt terrible about it, of course, and I would make it right, but I didn't realize how severe it might be. Then one day later, this other kid sent me a video, and he caught it in the act, like, or maybe he had two and the one exploded, so the next one he's like, all right, I'll show you.
Yeah.
And I mean, it literally, like, right, like, I mean, your ceiling's not terribly high here.
Yeah.
It was on the ceiling. It was, yeah, it's a fermentation process. This is why you have the airlock to let out the CO2, right? And
so the gas is just built up in the bottles, and just they went to open them and
they opened it and it
geysers.
exploded, right? Like, fortunately,
goodness.
I don't think it would ever break through this glass, but the minute that you give it the means
release,
to,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. I had some seasoning just the other week we were using for some meat, and it was like a liquid seasoning, and my parents gave it to us, and it was like, oh, hey, just remember there's this pressure on him, and it almost sounded like a gunshot when he opened it, and he's like, it got all over. I'm like, okay, so I went to go do the same thing, and I'm like, oh man, like it had a nice pressure buildup.
It was just
it was like a marinade for me, and it just, I don't know what it was, but
it was known to have this.
Yeah. And
wait, it's known to have it, or did they fly here? And
no, they had it. We picked it up from them when we were back in California, and when we drove back here, I thought, maybe the pressure and everything.
Yeah,
but
the elevation.
He's like, when we opened it to marinate the meat, it had that, and it was like, oh man, but yeah, you just never know. Like, it's one of those situations where
as long as, I mean, as long as it was just a pop, like a can of Pringles, and not a explosion. Yeah. And then I ran over there, biked over there immediately, and made it right. But yeah, it was a couple. Why did I bring up the exploder? Just learning, I guess. You learn, and then I wanted to understand, well, why did this happen? And at least from what I could understand, it's just cook time and just not cooking it long enough to kill the bacteria that would then start to come together to ferment. So yeah, you learn. You just don't do it again, or don't introduce more sugars, maybe. You know.
And haven't had a bottle explode since.
No,
look at that.
Not
Learn
going
and
to
grow and make a new product that's even better now.
And then you also, again, you learn. You just keep learning, right? Like, why did it happen? And then you learn. But years before so I started to tell you off camera, right? Like, Tel Aviv is just a very DIY place, and everybody is an artist, and everybody, and I mean, I in my day, not that that's art, but maybe it is, I made pickles, okay, and then I used to make like beard oil, and it's same type of deal with the beard oil, just what is it, and make my recipe and craft it, and well, this one's too greasy, and this one smells funky, and this one smelled good when I put it on, but now it's funky. Anyway, I used to make pickles, and I used to give them to coworkers and shit like 5 years before, and I learned later, when I started learning about fermenting, that I had no idea what I was doing when I was making pickling. Or, right, there's pickling and then there's fermenting. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of just like throwing shit together and letting it sit in the sun for 4 days, because that's what a recipe said. And but like, again, like, had no idea about an airlock and bacteria. And with pickles, even more so, you're really like creating this bacteria, and you might want to skim it, or you watch out for the yeast, or whatever it is. Like, I had no idea. And it wasn't until fortunately nothing happened. But when I started learning about the hot sauce fermenting, I really realized why it's important to know what you're doing and to learn, and to you're playing with bacteria is like, I'm just glad nobody got sick from my pickles.
One of the conversations we had at the show when we first met is you've had a history of creativity, and like at your age now, in your point in life, this is your big creativity that you've grown to. And I think for other people out there, like, you might start somewhere. You talked about your music. You thought you're going to be a rhythm guitar.
I'm saying, like, I'm like to be we said off camera to be labeled like an artist, but then you made a good point. Like, for sure, I'm super artsy. Whatever. Art is such a broad category.
Yeah.
But I always thought I was like a good like rhythm guitarist, not the lead guy, right? Yeah. You're like the busboy, not the waiter. You're like the painter's assistant, you know. But that's not fair to myself. Also, it demeans my own talents. I always felt like sorry.
I was just going down the rabbit hole of like creativity for you. It's like the music side of things. There's also a street art side of things that you have. We won't give away too much.
Sure. We can talk about that.
There is that side of it, but like still discovering, and like it's not too late. Like you never knew at like the age of 15 you were going to be a hot sauce like creator.
Totally.
And so all of those things that you've driven through your creative like lifespan is gotten you to here. If there were people out there like, again, if you have like information, tips, or like kind of a thing to like keep pursuing this, what would that like kind of helpful tip be for those people out there looking to be in the creative world?
Great question. When I almost interrupted you just now, I was going to say, and I think it answers your question, Kurt Vonnegut, he says, I won't paraphrase the quote because I'll bastardize it completely, but he basically says, no matter what it is, just do it, just create. And it doesn't matter how good it's going to come out, just the creation, that's like the part. I never set out to start this business, right? It was the creation. It was like, well, this is for me. Again, I'd say just do it, right? Like that's what I believe in. I think a lot of people, I can't say a lot of people. I know in life, a lot of times I've held myself back with the idea of, well, it's going to be so hard, and there's so much that goes into it, and right, I got to get a label, and you got to get a website, and I got to market this thing, and I got to get it into stores, and like, just fucking do it, right? Like, talking about it's not going to get it done, and you know what? You don't have to get in stores today. Why don't you like first get that label, right? Like, learn about moving to the States. The bureaucracy is a lot easier. It was a lot easier for me to look up what it is to open up an LLC and what kind of regulations I'm going to need for my business and what it's going to take and to do it. And if I could look that stuff up, then anybody can, right? So just look it up and do it. If you got a big, it's cool. Like, you guys are at like the big Cottonwood flea market and stuff. You got a lot of like young creatives there, right? Do it. Just fucking open an LLC is probably the only thing you need officially, right? And then if you're a food business, look into the food regulations. And if you're I don't know, if you're tax exempt, figure out what that means. And, just look it up. Somebody's done it before you. The information's there. Yeah. In this day and age, at least, for sure.
Yeah, we had to go through the same process. We did the same thing. Look it up, figure it out.
Look it up. Somebody's done it. Yeah. What does it take to open up a art business in Utah, you know? Can I cook hot sauce in my house? Maybe you can, maybe you can't,
For your first show now, since you've come to the States, how long ago was your first show? Like your first farmer's market, your first like art show, whatever you started vending your hot sauce at.
Absolutely.
When was that first one?
Yeah, great question. Last year's farmer's market, summer season.
Okay.
Was my first, so I think it was June 4th.
Was that Wheeler Farms?
No, okay. Pioneer Park, downtown,
okay.
Yeah. And now I do 2 markets a week. I was doing a third, but it was a night market. It just seemed to be too much for me at the moment. But yeah, June of last year.
So you're just getting past that first year of doing open markets, doing art shows, vending stuff. What have you learned in that first year?
Yeah, very much so. Just like still young. As much as you think you've come, you have come a long way, but as much as you're like, we still have so far to go. Learned a lot. I think every day I'm learning, and if I'm not, I'm doing something wrong. Right now we've just kind of rebranded and we've got our new labels, and with that, it was previously kind of a bottleneck situation. Now that we've got these new labels, there's a lot more to do in a retail setting or updating our online presence, things like this. I don't know. I'm constantly learning what my table setup can look like or should look like. You're constantly changing it for each show, maybe, to the environment. But, like...
I do remember the Christmas hats for the holiday show you had for
So
the top
cute.
and bottom.
And they're great, and
So
I'll do them
cute.
again this year. And that wasn't even, like, a learning thing. That was just, like, well, I'm doing a holiday market.
Yeah.
I wonder if... I think we were just perusing Amazon for just, like, holiday stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think I saw it anywhere... I don't know if it was just my idea or if I just saw it on Amazon. Scarves and hats, because it was a Christmas market.
It grabbed attention.
Flaming
Well, and it made it
homers.
so like giftable, right? Like you don't have to package it up. It's got a little hat on it. You can give it to your friend or.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that was probably the idea, right? Like
Yeah.
it's hot sauce makes a great gift, you know, because sometimes my question to people is, oh, do you like hot sauce? And they say, well, no, I'm from Utah. And I'm like, and then I always say, I kind of made up this statistic, but I say, oh, statistically speaking, everybody's got a hot sauce lover in their life. And they're like, well, that's true, you know, my uncle. And I'm like, you know, this makes a great gift. So, yeah, for sure.
I'm sure you're not wrong. Like whether you made the statistic
No,
up
it's a
or
great
not.
statistic.
Like, yeah,
It's like, oh,
I'm
you-
sure.
Well, they're like, no, I don't have anybody I love. You're like, I get it. Have a great morning. I'm always learning. My display, I mean, you're just one person. I have good friends. I have a good support system in general that have seen where this was, 4 years ago in Israel and what it is now. I would almost call some of them my board of directors, though they haven't been formally named. But like, luckily, I'm able to bounce ideas off of them because I believe in myself. But you want to get a little feedback and see what somebody else's opinion is because you're just one person. I'm always learning, man.
Would you say that you have at all become, I don't want to say immune, but that you've become almost like nose blind or taste blind to certain like flavors because you're working with the sauce so much? Is that ever a...
No, for some people, absolutely, I think. And I think maybe also you build up a tolerance.
Right, yeah.
I might have built up more of like a gut issue. So, talking about the passion, I not meant to bring it up before. I was thinking about it before. Like, so I'm fermenting peppers in the house and everything, pepper candy. And this kid gave me a bag of huge peppers, right? So back then, maybe it was like the newness to the industry and being excited and also being abroad and not being able to find peppers like this. As a side note, when I came to New York one time on vacation, I'm from New York originally, right? And then I went to this hot sauce store in Brooklyn called The Heatonist. And The Heatonist is the store behind First We Feast, which is the show that does hot ones. Okay. So The Heatonist is kind of like... that's the spot.
Yeah.
And I was like so into my pepper world that I'm going to go to the Heatonist. I dropped like $150 there. I brought back like 13 sauces. I brought back the last dab, right? Like I brought back like my whole, not that I was ever interested in doing my own, hot ones, but I wanted for my own sake, like what's hot in, and this was also like, I say like, this is about 4 or 5 years ago, before hot ones was
As
ubiquitous,
big.
before it was everywhere, right? I was right at the very, very beginning of what it became. But I had a hot chicken, a fried chicken spot, like 4-minute bike ride away, and I would eat it way too often, and I would bring it back, and I would eat my sauces, and they were hot, like the last dab, and this Reaper Squeezins, which is this amazing just Carolina Reaper mash. That's it. But I had all these peppers that this kid gave me, and like it was just this newness to the industry, and I wanted to taste them all for whatever reason. So I would.
Yeah.
So I would like stream myself live on Facebook, which I never was like, hey guys, I'm going live. Like, who cares? I mean, in life in general.
Yeah.
But for these particular instances, maybe because... And it's fun, too, because when you look back on it, you're like, oh, I do have like a nice little history as like a little pepper boy, you know? I would message... not message. I would put like a little like, "Hey guys, going live in 5, eating Carolina Reaper. Tune in, turn in, drop out, or whatever. Turn on, drop out." And then I'd be like going live in 15, so I would like let my buddies prepare, and I would usually do it at like midnight for whatever reason, like late enough in my day that I was just feeling however I was feeling, and it's midnight, and okay, I'm gonna eat it, and then. Because of the time difference, it would be like 5 o'clock in the States, and my buddies would tune in, and I would just eat a pepper, and I would be like, like start like not hallucinating. Like it's very psychedelic. Sometimes I was eating these peppers. Sometimes they're not as hot as I thought. Sometimes they're way hotter. Sometimes they really hurt, physically hurt. Sometimes it's just like, oh my God, that's a creeper and it's coming on. And these videos would be like 45 or 50 minutes and it would be the whole process of me like,
goodness.
all right, I'm going to do it. Okay. And then I would eat it and then and the ring, because I was always wearing white t-shirts back then. That was just my outfit. So the ring around my like just white shirt just covered. I don't think I would ever become immune or whatever, but like back then I built up a tolerance,
Right.
And I could do it. And like I said, some of them messed you up the next day or 2 days.
Yeah.
When I ate the scorpion pepper, so I ate some ghost pepper that this kid grew, and it was the first blossom, the first bloom, so maybe it wasn't as hot. I don't know, but these ghost peppers, they weren't that bad. It was hot, but it wasn't that bad. I'm not saying all ghost peppers aren't bad. I'm saying what I ate wasn't. And I ate a Reaper, and it was super tasty and fruity. And it also was like, okay, they say this is the hottest in the world. Let me see. Sometimes it's like an ego. Not that I care about ego, but you're like, all right, hottest in the world. What does that mean?
Yeah.
And also I wanted to know the flavor. But the Reaper was very hot, but also super flavorful, right? Nice. I ate this scorpion pepper, and there's different variety. This was a Trinidad Moruga scorpion. Or no, this was a apocalypse scorpion. From the second that I ate it, my body was like, what did you do? Like,
oh no.
Like you like want to shit yourself. You're like I didn't, but
just immediately rejection.
Your belly was like done. Like we're shutting down. We're done. And then I had to go to the work the next day. So just a little caveat to that story. So we were always out on the roof or it's hot out or whatever. I'm like, hey, tune in everybody. I'm about to eat it. I'm like live on Facebook and the power drops. It's like it's midnight and I guess that's when they would do work outside on the power grid, but they didn't notify us. So just the power drops, literally. I'm like, okay, guys, hey, I'm about to eat it. So I'm like, but now, like I was like about to eat it. So I'm like, I'm ready. I'm like jazzed up, I'm not like you're already salivating. You're like, this is going to be whatever it's going to be. So I, had like the mobile hotspot on my phone and I went on my rooftop because that's where you're going to have more light. And I went back live, it's 10 or 15 minutes later now, and I go live, and I'm like, all right, guys, what's that line from Empire Records or whatever? And I was like, oh, they're trying to close us, they're trying to shut us down. And you hear like sirens too in the background, just as coincidence. It's super like ominous because the whole block
it's
is
all blocked,
everything. So it's just, I guess, like emergency lighting for the street lights is the only thing you could see. And then I just remember eating it and like immediately grabbing onto something and just like,
oh no.
And then I had to go to work the next day and for 2 days I just couldn't get any work done. And I, this same job that I eventually left, right? And I just remember standing at the back of my seat, like just holding onto your seat, just cramping up and going to the fridge and drinking milk and you don't get immune, but it may be immune to the eye damage from cooking it, and like I said, sometimes I would slip up. I wouldn't wear gloves as much as I should.
With the hot sauce, 1 year down doing shows, new labels, new graphics, everything. What's the future of Flaming Homers look like for you?
Yeah, man, great question. I say that for every question.
It's okay. They just keep getting better. That's why. Yeah.
It's like a job interview. You're like, that's a great question. Always trying to stay true to whatever our ethos is. And we're a hot sauce company. I'm not interested in making too many products that aren't really in that hot sauce realm. Even that, let's say, like, spicy balsamic. Is it a sauce? Sure, right? Like, is ketchup a sauce? Sure, right? Like,
it's condiment.
Yeah, it's a condiment. Don't call it a sauce. Like, well, I'm not going to make a ketchup, but I mean, like, the atomic balsamic fits in that. I'm not trying to stray too far out of my lane. I know what I know. I've been making sauce for a while, and that's where I put my research, And there's so much else that I need to do that I don't have time to learn how to make I don't even know, some other product.
Yeah.
But of course, you want to expand your line or expand your brand. Again, with the organic growth, I think the 5-year plan would certainly include retail stores.
I think you're in a couple, right? You've
got
got
a
you
couple
got a couple
stores,
you
yeah.
got some shelf space. In some of the specialty hot sauce stores, right?
Yeah, more or less. Shout out to Burn Your Tongue and Roger. He's inside of the Quilted Bear locations, and I think also not just Quilted Bear, but there's maybe like up in the Ogden Mall or something. Yeah, not to discredit that. I'm super stoked to be there. We're also in the Solitude market up at Solitude Mountain Resort. Not to discredit any of that, and I love being at both those places, and I appreciate them very much. Until I had the new labels, I wasn't even really interested to approach retail stores. And even now, truth be told, like, it is getting your name out there. I'm a people person. I'm there to be the face of this brand, you know, in person. I'd love to get into, of course, Harmon's, Whole Foods, whatever, and with our clean, minimal ingredients. I hope that they'll really like and appreciate that. No gums, no gimmicks, you know. Just to keep growing it, be at as many markets as I can. You know, probably soon enough hire somebody to maybe do, let's say, like, do an Ogden market on a Saturday when I'm at the downtown market, something like that. Just building the brand in whatever capacity you can. We believe in all of our products, but I think that there's a couple that are really going to put us on the map because of their individuality or uniqueness. And once we're in the right spot, either with the right bottle or the right label, yeah, man, you just put yourself out there. There's a couple things that'll get you noticed, right? Like I said, the Heatonist or First We Feast. You know, imagine, people always say to you, oh, why don't you mail this to Hot Ones? Like, yeah, of course. Why don't we mail it to Hot Ones, right? Like, I never thought of that, right? You got to have the right product. We eat with our eyes first, right? You need a nice label. Like, oh, cool, did you make this in your basement? It's tasty, but, like, we're not going to buy 1,000 cases of it, you know? Organic growth, just learning what's next and doing it.
Well, Ben, we appreciate you coming down and having a conversation.
It's my pleasure.
We knew the passion of what you do and being a creative and being at markets and doing it would come through, and it's been.
Yeah, I hope it shines through. No, it was my pleasure. Really, could be a little long-winded, but I guess we're here to like tell stories, and I enjoyed
that's 100%.
telling. It's when I'm making those posts on Instagram, like today. So we're like Zahava, ancient Middle Eastern spice blend. I didn't haven't like formally released it yet, right? Like, what does that mean? Like, we've been teasing it. We've been teasing the new labels.
Yeah, we got a no label bottle from you.
Friends and family bottle, right?
Yeah. It's delicious.
But we've been teasing it, and now we're like official. But do you need to announce to everybody you're official? Do you just change your branding and start having photos with new branding? But you probably want to you probably want to announce the new flavor at least, right? And today I was like, well, today's the day. Like, I haven't posted in a couple days, and I need to post, and you got to be consistent. And I just wasn't, not to say I wasn't feeling creative. I wasn't feeling inspired today. Like, you're like, all right, well, I got to write the text for this Instagram post. And maybe I was looking at the pictures, and they weren't conveying the message that I've been working so many months on this release to just let it happen without that passion.
Yeah.
So it's nice, yeah, man. I mean, like, the passion's there. You just gotta, I don't know what I'm trying to say. The passion's there. I didn't make that post today. It's hard to, like, fabricate it, you know? Yeah. Oh, I guess I was saying, like, when I make those posts, you want it to come through. So you want to tell the story. I try to be, you know, funny enough or creative enough and tell the story of, you know, when little Homer was a pepper boy picking peppers on his roof and hucking the bad one down at cars below, or, you know, jokingly, right? We're never deliberately hucking them at cars, but sometimes you're like, oh, this fucking pepper, and you just throw it, and you're like, oh, there's a street below. But I try to let that, not our ethos, our backstory, our pepper boy, you know, growing them and making chili. That was so fun to, like, make a chili with your own peppers, you know? So, yeah, the passion's there. And I think for anybody, hopefully, like, don't start a business if the passion's not there. And if it is, then just run with it, man. Do whatever it takes.
Yeah. So, when that post does go up, where can people find that post from you?
Well, so we have the website, flaminghomers.com. Still have a little bit of work to do right now in getting the new branding and the new colors and basically kind of like redesigning the website. But Instagram is a really good place to find me. info or sales at flaminghomers.com if they want to shoot an email. But definitely Instagram.
And what's that handle?
Great question. Flaming Homers hot sauce
Awesome.
at Instagram. Yeah. Sometimes it's like, hey, just Google Flaming Homers. You'll find what you need.
Yeah.
Flaming Homers. Flaming Homers.
Yeah, we'll put those links in the description down
Flaming
below for
Homers.
sure.
Ben, it has been a pleasure having
The pleasure's
you
been
here.
all mine. I
It's been
appreciate
it,
awesome. Guys, again, I keep saying this on every show. Go out to local vendors. If you are in the local Utah area, go check out Ben and Flaming Homers and everything he's got to offer at all the shows he's at. Follow him on social media. But, guys, tell us what kind of, like, food passion thing you guys have seen out there that you're creative or that's... Because it's not just drawing, it's not just sculptures. This is just as much of an art as it is to everything else we see at these shows. And guys, thanks for joining us on another episode of Always Making. We'll see you guys next time.